In today's video, we'll look at 3 notorious mass murders that were committed by females. However, before that, we want to bring you a word from our amazing sponsor, Magellan TV. Magellan TV is an awesome streaming service that has over 2,000 documentaries. They have tons of great documentaries in a bunch of different genres like ancient history, nature, and culture, but my favorite is their crime and mystery documentaries. One riveting series that I really enjoyed was Caught on Camera. Magellan TV has 3 seasons of this great show. Another great documentary is The Haunting Behind Closed Doors, which follows the police force's domestic abuse task force. Magellan TV was created by filmmakers, and these are just 2 of the great documentaries that you can watch. The documentaries are ad-free, and there are some stunning documentaries that are available in 4K. Magellan TV is a great way to learn more and get insight into topics that you're already passionate about. Magellan TV is also easy to access. You can watch on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Google Play, Apple TV, and iOS, or simply cast from your phone to your TV. Magellan TV is offering criminally listed viewers a free month, so go to magellantv.com/criminally listed and check it out for yourself. By getting Magellan TV, you not only get access to thousands of great documentaries, but you'll also be supporting criminally listed. Number 3. Sylvia Seegrist. Sylvia Seegrist was born on July 31st, 1960 in Crumlin, Pennsylvania. She was the only child of Ruth and Don Seegrist. When Sylvia was younger, it seemed like she had a bright future. She had friends, and she excelled in school. But when she was 13, she told her mother, Ruth, that her paternal grandfather had sexually abused her when she was 8 years old. Not long after Ruth learned this, Sylvia's behavior started to change. She started acting rebellious, and she started smoking marijuana, and she acted promiscuously. As Sylvia progressed into her teens, her behavior became even more erratic. When Sylvia was 15, she was diagnosed with schizophrenia. After she was diagnosed, she was hospitalized for a short time. After she was released, Sylvia's erratic behavior continued. She also started acting more violently. One time, she choked her mother. Another time, she stabbed a guidance counselor at her school. She also threw a lit cigarette in a therapist's face. These incidents would lead to brief stays in a psychiatric hospital. In December 1984, 24-year-old Sylvia enlisted in the Army. But she was released from the Army 2 months later because of behavioral problems. Sylvia was deeply upset by this. For some time, she had been obsessed with the military, and she often wore military fatigues. Sylvia first started to get homicidal fantasies when she was 20 years old. Before and after her stint in the Army, Sylvia would go to public places like a McDonald's or the Springfield Mall in Springfield Township, Pennsylvania, and threaten to shoot the places up. Sylvia also seemed to identify with mass murderer James Huberty. On July 18, 1984, Huberty went into a McDonald's in San Diego, California, and started shooting random people. Huberty ended up killing 21 people and injuring another 19. He was eventually shot to death by a police sniper. At the end of March 1985, Sylvia bought a Ruger semi-automatic .22 caliber rifle from a department store. To purchase the $107 rifle, she was required to fill out paperwork. The paperwork asked if she had a history of mental illness, and Sylvia lied and indicated that she did not. When, in reality, over the past 10 years, Sylvia had been hospitalized a dozen times because of her mental illness. But she would only stay hospitalized for several weeks at most, and then she would be released. Sylvia's mother, Ruth, was worried that her daughter was dangerous. Ruth wanted her daughter hospitalized for more extended periods. But, at the time, it was hard to hospitalize someone against their will in Pennsylvania. So Sylvia would stay in the hospital, then she'd be released, and she'd go back to threatening to shoot up public places. In July 1985, Ruth wrote an article for the newspaper, the Springfield Press, about the difficulties of having a mentally ill child who is also dangerous. She wrote that parents needed some way to protect themselves from their dangerous children. She wrote that she and parents dealing with similar circumstances were desperate and they needed to get protection. Ruth asked what needs to happen before they could get help, writing, "What do you need? Blood on the floor?" 3 months after the article was published, on the day before Halloween 1985, 25-year-old Sylvia Seegrist went to the pharmacy at the Springfield Mall. She tried to get her medication, but she was denied because she didn't have her welfare card. It's believed that the denial of the drugs helped push Sylvia over the edge. Sylvia heard voices, and they encouraged her to hurt people. The voices also told her that everyone was against her. So Sylvia went home and grabbed her rifle. She loaded the pockets of her camo pants with bullets and drove back to the Springfield Mall. She parked her car, got out, and fired at the first man she saw. The man was just walking out of the mall. Sylvia missed with her first shot, and the man was able to get to safety. Sylvia then fired at a woman who was using an ATM. She also missed her. Then she sprayed bullets at a family who were entering a restaurant. 2-year-old Stevie Cosman was hit in the chest and he died from his wounds. His two cousins, 10-year-old Tiffany Woodson and 9-year-old Karen Woodson, were also shot, but they survived. They were all with Stevie's parents, who were not shot. Sylvia then entered the mall and started firing at random. She would walk by some stores and do nothing. Then she would randomly fire into other stores. At the mall that day was 67-year-old retired physician Ernest Trout. Trout had just made a purchase and he didn't realize that Sylvia was walking around firing her rifle. He unknowingly walked out of the store in front of her. Sylvia shot him 3 times, and he later died from his wounds. 64-year-old Augusto Ferreira also didn't realize that someone was shooting up the mall. He also accidentally walked into Sylvia's field of vision. He too was shot to death. Jean Lafleur was a 24-year-old grad student, an EMT, and a volunteer firefighter. He was at the mall that day, and Sylvia walked up to him and raised her gun. Lafleur thought it was a prank, and he yanked the gun away from her. He thought that Sylvia had just been firing blanks as part of a disturbing Halloween prank. He then pulled her into a store to wait for security. When some security guards arrived at the store, one of them asked Sylvia why she did it. She responded by saying, "My family makes me nervous." In total, Sylvia Seegrist killed 3 people and injured 7 other people. After Sylvia was arrested, she was held in a psychiatric hospital. In March 1986, she was found competent to stand trial. She went to trial in June 1986, about 7 months after the shooting. Sylvia's lawyers argued that she was not guilty because of her mental illness. The prosecutor presented evidence that Sylvia had been planning the shooting for some time and she was aware of what she was doing. The jury deliberated for 9 hours. Their verdict was guilty, but mentally ill. Sylvia was given 3 consecutive life sentences for the 3 counts of murder and 7 10-year sentences for the attempted murder charges. She was sent to serve her sentence at the State Correctional Institution, Muncie, which is in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. At the time of this video, she is still incarcerated there. She is 59 years old. She is expected to die behind bars. After the mall shooting, Sylvia's mother, Ruth, became a mental health advocate. Number 2. Opal Collins. Ben Collins Jr. from Louisa, Kentucky, served in World War II. He survived the war, and he continued to serve in the Army. In 1947, when Ben Jr. was 20, he was in a car accident during his Army service. The accident left him paralyzed from the chest down. He received a settlement of $10,000, which is about $115,000 in 2019. He also received a pension from the Army. Ben Jr. lived with his father, Ben Sr., his mother, Julia, his 2 younger sisters, Martha Ann and Mary Sue, and his younger brother, Bobby. About 5 years after the accident, an attractive 22-year-old woman named Opal took an interest in Ben Jr., who was 25. They started spending a lot of time together. At first, the Collins family was not sure what to think of Opal. But it wasn't long before Ben Jr.'s mother, Julia, disapproved of their relationship. One major reason Julia didn't approve of the relationship was because she was sure that Opal was abusing Ben Jr. Julia may have also not liked Opal's background. Opal had been married twice and she had 2 children, but had custody of neither. She first got married when she was 14. In early 1956, the Collins family moved to Hammond, Indiana. It is suspected that one of the main reasons the family moved out of state was to get away from Opal. But in mid-April 1956, Opal relocated to Hammond and injected herself back into Ben Jr.'s life. A few weeks later, on May 1st, 1956, Ben Jr. and Opal got married. Opal moved in with the Collins. Every day that she lived in the house, it was tension-filled. Fights broke out, especially between Opal and her mother-in-law, Julia. Supposedly, Julia told Opal that she used their marriage certificate as toilet paper. It wasn't long before Opal demanded that Ben Jr. kick his family out. But because of his disability, Ben Jr. relied on his family, so he wouldn't even consider forcing his family to move out. Then, several weeks into the marriage, Opal demanded that Ben Jr. sign over the deed to the house and his life insurance over to her. Ben Jr. refused. Opal snapped and physically attacked Ben Jr. When the fight broke out, They were in the garage, and a neighbor saw the attack. The neighbor broke it up. On day 23 of the marriage, Ben Jr. met with a lawyer and filed for divorce. 3 days later, on May 26, 1956, Opal was still living in the house. That afternoon, while 28-year-old Ben Jr. was lying in bed, Opal, who was 25, went into her mother-in-law and father-in-law's bedroom and picked up a .22 caliber rifle and loaded it with 16 bullets. She then went into the living room where she shot 11-year-old Mary Sue twice. Opal then went after her mother-in-law, 50-year-old Julia, and her 14-year-old sister-in-law, Martha Ann. As they huddled together, Opal unloaded the rifle at them. Julia was shot 5 times, and Martha Ann was shot 9 times. When the shooting started, Ben Jr. was in his bed. Due to his disability, he was not able to get out of the bed. He helplessly listened as his mother and his 2 sisters were shot to death. Then he heard Opal walk upstairs to his room while she loaded the gun. Then she entered the bedroom and aimed the rifle at him. Opal supposedly told Ben Jr. that if she couldn't have him, then no one could. Opal shot him once, killing him. The youngest of the Collins family, 6-year-old Bobby, had been watching TV when the shooting started. When Bobby saw Opal with the rifle, he ran to his neighbor's home and got help. The police arrived at the Collins home and they arrested Opal. Julia, Ben Jr., Martha Ann, and Mary Sue Collins were all pronounced dead. Ben Sr. wasn't at home at the time of the shooting because he was working at a steel mill. Opal Collins went to trial in October 1956. It was only for the murder of Mary Sue Collins. Her lawyer argued that she was insane at the time of the murders, but the jury did not believe it. They found Opal guilty and a judge sentenced her to death. Her death sentence was to be carried out on February 15, 1957, and she would have been the first woman to be executed in the state of Indiana. But then, nearly a month and a half after she was sentenced to death, the governor commuted her sentence to life. This would have allowed Opal to apply for parole in 1981, if not earlier. It's unclear what happened to Opal Collins after her sentence was commuted. If she is still alive today, she would be 86 years old. Number 1. Olga Hepnarová. Olga Hepnarová was born in June 1951 in Prague, Czech Republic. Her mother, Anna, was a dentist, and her father, Antonin, was a bank clerk. Olga claimed that her parents were cold and indifferent to her. She also said that her father beat her. Olga's school life wasn't much better than her home life. She was an awkward loner. Also, she used to apparently get into fights and arguments with random people on the street or on the tram. Since Olga had problems in nearly every aspect of her life, Olga said she only felt good when she was asleep. When Olga was 13, she attempted to take her own life by overdosing on pills. She survived, but she was hospitalized in a mental asylum for a year. Her year in the asylum did not improve her social skills. Her hatred for people also grew. Olga's father owned a house out in the country. He had inherited the house and he rented it to two people. In August 1970, when Olga was 19, she set the house on fire while the two residents and her sister were inside of it. The fire was extinguished before it caused too much damage and no one was hurt. No one suspected that Olga set the fire. As an adult, Olga had several jobs, but she would always get fired because she didn't get along with any of her co-workers. Olga dated both men and women, but her relationships never lasted. In 1971, she moved into a cottage that was only about 10 feet by 10 feet. She ended up living there alone for 2 years and then sold it in the spring of 1973. With the money from the sale of the cottage, she bought a car, which she supposedly loved. As early as the age of 16, Olga had fantasies about killing a large group of strangers. In the spring of 1973, Olga decided to make her fantasies a reality. After several months of planning, in July 1973, just days after her 22nd birthday, Olga's plans started to unfold. First, she wrote 2 letters to 2 different newspapers in Prague. Both letters were very similar. The second letter reads, "Today, on July 8th, I will steal a bus and drive it into a crowd at full speed. I will cause the deaths of X people. I will be judged and punished. And this is my confession." Olga then wrote about how she had been bullied her entire life and gave examples of harassment she had endured. She then closes off the letter writing, "Personal balance, I'm a sexual cripple. Unable to establish a human relationship. I'm a devastated human. A human destroyed by humans. So, I have a choice, kill myself or kill others. And I decide as follows, I will return to my hate. If I left as an unknown suicide, it would be too cheap for you. This is my judgment. I, Olga Hepnarová, the victim of your bestiality, condemn you to death." But she did not send the letters after she wrote them. Instead, the day after she wrote the second letter, she pushed her car down into a ravine. Her car was found the next day, which was July 10th, 1973. By the time it was found, Olga had posted her 2 letters, and she was out looking for a bus to steal. Instead of a bus, Olga found a large truck. Olga had practiced driving large vehicles, and a few days earlier, she had even got her license to drive large vehicles. She then drove the truck to Prague 7. She found a spot on a street called Defenders of the Peace that was uphill from a tram stop. At about 1:45 p.m., she started driving towards the tram stop. But then, at the last second, she changed her mind and she didn't drive into the people waiting for the tram. It was not because she had any second thoughts or worries of regret. She just didn't think that the crowd of people was big enough. So she drove back up to her spot on the hill. Then she saw about 25 people were standing at the tram stop. She drove down the hill and then calmly turned onto the sidewalk and drove the truck directly into the people waiting for the tram. A taxi driver witnessed the ramming and he called his dispatch center to request that medical help be sent to the scene. A police officer was nearby and he ran to the truck. He opened the driver's door and he found 22-year-old Olga Hepnarová sitting behind the wheel. The shocked police officer asked Olga if she had fallen asleep at the wheel. Olga said, "No, I didn't fall asleep, and the brakes are fine. I deliberately entered the sidewalk, and it's my revenge for the way I've been treated all my life." Olga was arrested and taken to the police station. Meanwhile, 17 people that she hit were taken to the hospital. 3 people died at the scene. Over the next several days, 5 more people died from the wounds they sustained. The other 5 people who were at the tram stop were uninjured. At the police station, Olga confessed that she wanted to kill as many people as she could. What shocked the detectives who interviewed her was that she showed no remorse or regret for what she had done. Then 2 days after she murdered 8 people and injured 12 others, Olga's confession letters arrived at the newspapers. The letters confirmed that Olga was a cold-blooded killer who wanted to hurt as many people as she could. At Olga's trial, which was held in April 1974, about 9 months after the mass murder, her lawyer tried to argue that she was schizophrenic. But the prosecutor had plenty of evidence, like the 2 confession letters, that showed that Olga was clearly in her right mind when she committed the crime, and she knew the consequences of what she was doing. Olga was ultimately found guilty, and on April 6, 1974, she was sentenced to death. On March 12, 1975, 23-year-old Olga Hepnarová was hanged. She was the last woman to be executed in the Czech Republic. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Hopefully you found it interesting. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos just like it. Also, please check out criminallist.com where you can suggest cases, buy merch, and find out about an exclusive podcast. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/criminallylisted. Well, that's all for today. Thanks again for watching.